Hello. Now we're going to talk about psychological health. In the first part of our video lecture, we'll look at defining psychological health, and trust me, there are many ways to do this. We are just going to pick a few, and we'll look at some of the many different traits that define a healthy mind. We'll look briefly at the brain and the mind-body connection. And we'll talk about what happens when a healthy mind becomes an unhealthy mind. The second video lecture will look at different types of psychological disorders and ways to treat disorders. Let's go. Psychological health, or soundness of mind, as your book refers to it, is as important to our well-being as soundness of body, or our physical health. Physical health is also closely intertwined with our psychological health. Physical illness can impact us psychologically, leading to psychological problems like depression and anxiety, or making it difficult to maintain an active social life. And psychological factors also can impair our physical health. Let's face it, when you're anxious, when you're depressed, your physical body suffers. Persistent negative emotions, especially anger, can increase risk of developing heart disease or suffering heart attack. Those negative feelings can also make you feel vulnerable to physical health problems. So what is psychological health? Health is more than just the absence of illness. Psychological health involves the ability to meet the challenges of your daily life, to think clearly, and to be satisfied with your work, your play, and your social life. All of these factors are involved in psychological health. Psychological health refers to being able to maintain successful psychological activities, like being able to get through the day, being able to have fulfilling relationships with others, as well as the ability to adapt to change and to cope with stress. I know that a lot of these sound really basic, but if you ever have known anyone with psychological or mental health issues, these become huge mountains that look impossible to climb. Before we talk about what's unhealthy and what an unhealthy mind or psychological illness looks like, let's talk about what a healthy mind looks like. Self-confidence is one of those important traits involved in making you feel psychologically healthy. Self-confidence refers to your ability to complete tasks that you have set for yourself. Self-assertiveness, or the ability to express yourself while being able to respect others. Ego identity, having a firm sense of who you are and what you stand for. Many students, when they get to college, may experience an identity crisis, not knowing who you are, not knowing what you stand for. Optimism, looking at this glass as half full as opposed to half empty. And happiness, being able to bounce back from a situation that may have thrown you off. These are only a few of the many different traits that define a healthy mind. This is one of my favorite definitions. Being able to look at problems and situations as temporary and specific, not permanent and general. Let's take a look at the mind-body connection, and it starts with the brain. On the right, we have the different lobes of the brain. There's data coming out that now suggests that the frontal lobe isn't fully formed until mid to late 20s, meaning that problem-solving abilities, reasoning, emotions, personality are not fully developed until your mid to late 20s. That may be true, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not accepting that as an excuse for your not turning in assignments on time. I don't want you to tell me that it's because your frontal lobe isn't developed. We have these chemicals that our brain uses to send messages. They're called neurotransmitters. There are about 10 major neurotransmitters throughout the brain, and we'll look at a couple of them. But imbalances or dysfunctions in neurotransmission of these chemicals has been associated with some psychological disorders. Hormones and genes can also influence physical and psychological functioning. Excesses and deficiencies in certain hormone levels, like growth hormone or thyroid hormone, have been linked to both physical and psychological disorders. If you know anyone who's ever had a thyroid deficiency, it affects them physically because they can be slow and tired, easy to put on weight, but it also can be related to depression. Genetic factors as well can contribute to disorders. So when does a healthy mind become an unhealthy mind? First of all, I want you to know that it's normal to experience variations in your moods, and that sometimes these moods can cause difficulties. The question is, are these mood swings persistent or are they temporary? Are these mood swings mild or are they intense? As we just said a few moments ago, being able to look at problems, situations, even mood swings as temporary and specific and not permanent in general are traits of a healthy mind.